The 2025 National Football League's preseason edition is over as the Chicago Bears, along with everyone else in the National Football League, are fearing and looking forward to cutdown day. In baseball, the Southside Hitmen take care of the Twins in grand old style fashion, while the Chicago Cubs swept through Southern California with no problem. We'll dig into college football with Big Ten Network's Dave Revsine, and we'll have a special edition, a surprising edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. So Monday Extravaganza edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I'm City Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, in the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2-hour extravaganza. We call us Sports Talk Radio Show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in these questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. We decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid. I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE, Live Entertainment Game. That's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel at 12:18 p.m. Central Standard Time. But never ever forget, much love to the replay game. Checking us out on the replay right now. Also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
And we'll provide you some of the best here on Second City Sports as we got sports media news. Chinese Taipei recaptures the Little League World Series. Tommy Fleetwood makes his breakthrough finally after a couple of missteps. And we got a special edition of Old School TV Monday. Terry McLaurin gets his nice little check, and we're into week one officially of college football. We got our buddy Dave Revsine from the Big Ten Network to preview Big Ten football and nationally. But first, speaking of cutdowns, the Bears and the rest of the NFL will be making their official cuts within the next couple of days. Of course, the Bears. They finish up the Chiefs 29-27 to go 2-0-1 in preseason. They face the Vikings in a couple of weeks for Monday Night Football. Now, I know people are going to get drunk off all the great performances by some of the second stringers, and that's fine. But I think for me, it's just like if you listen to Ben Johnson and some of the other coaches in their comments, I think like the team still has a long ways to go. If you heard Johnson's comments after the game on Friday, so I'm sure this is a time when these next 3 weeks you'll be seeing more and more through practices and stuff. So we'll see about some of the others, but some of the back end guys that they've made final good impressions. I know Zach Frazier looked really good. Unfortunately, you saw with the first team that the Chiefs are in a different class than the Bears. That's a whole different conversation. But Sid, what did you think? What are your kind of like your what are you looking forward to as the Bears get ready to start cutting down their guys to the final 53?
I appreciate Ben Johnson's honesty. Though one thing that I did have a problem with, I'll try not to overreact, was the first teamers, both offense and defense. Yes, Caleb Williams looked good in that second drive, leading them to a touchdown. The first team defense, I know you're playing Patrick Mahomes. Let's be real. The Kansas City Chiefs, they were in at least the starters. Some of them were not interested in being out there, so they'll just using that as I'm not going to say as playtime, but they'll just using it as a glorified practice. That's what these preseason games are. And Patrick Mahomes is amazing. You can insert any adjective you can imagine possible, and that's what that guy is. But I was not impressed by either the first team's units of the offense and the defense. I needed to see more. We kind of gave you guys the gameplay, what they were going to do on our show last Friday. They kind of stuck to that. Both teams had their starters play into the second quarter. Tyson Bagent, who signed that contract early last week, he proved his worth, especially at the end with that walk-off touchdown. I thought the second defense slightly looked better as they were coming back in the second half. But LaKeena, I know the question I'm going to ask right now as to our listeners and viewers out there at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel, so you can type in your answers in the chat. We only saw, I believe, 4 complete drives by Caleb Williams, correct? Throughout these 2 preseason games. The question was asked on one of the local sports television shows last night. I'll ask it here. Can you really judge Caleb Williams compared to last year? I'll be the first one to answer. I'll say no, because as Coach Johnson said, we're still there. The team is still in the baby stages of learning this offense, and it may take up to the bye week to do so. Now, has Caleb looked good? Yes, but am I ready to ascend him to the next level? No, I'm not being petty or anything like that, but especially with this new coaching staff and with him having a new voice in his head again for the second year in a row, going to the second year of his young career, you can't really judge anything. It's not even a small sample. It's only barely a small sample size of what we've seen from him so far. Hopefully, it's a sign of things to come until we start seeing these guys in real action, real regular season games. You cannot really judge Caleb what he's done in a small sample size in the preseason compared to what he did last year, which was a grandiose size in 17 games. You just can't do that, in my opinion.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk a little Bears and NFL. Now, I think for me, like I said, I've watched highlights. I think I only watched like a couple of the preseason games, of the 3 preseason games. I wasn't, it was okay. Like I said, I wasn't very impressed. Like you could tell there's still a lot of kinks that got to work out. And considering their early schedule, I mean, look, we talked about it. Minnesota, we'll talk about that because they made some moves over the weekend. They were very busy. You had Detroit. You got to go at Detroit after that. Then you got Dallas. You host Dallas. Then you got to go to Vegas. Look, we'll see where Vegas is. I mean, I'm not expecting them to compete in the AFC West, but I think they'll be like right there with a couple of their talented players. Of course, with new head coach Pete Carroll, they got a bye week after that. So remember, they got an early bye week this year. So yeah, it's going to take a while. And look, we know this offense of Coach Johnson is very complex. So it is going to take a while for some guys to get adjusted to, especially with Caleb. This is just, I think, what his third OC type is going to be a third type of offense. He's going to be doing this less than 2 years in the league. So I think people need to kind of give him a little bit of leeway here and just give him some time to kind of acclimate it. Look, y'all, not all of you, but some of y'all were clamoring for this guy to be the head coach. I know Johnson said that he wanted the job. Well, now you got the job. Look, now we got to see what you can do. So I think for me, it's just like I'm in wait and see mode. I'm in the state of Missouri right now. You gotta show me that this was the guy y'all wanted, and this is the offense you wanted to. You put the guys in there that you think you could run this offense, complex offense. Then okay, let us see it. And now for the defensive side, I mean, look, I think the defense will be is a little bit further right now. Look, they're still not having a second pass rusher. I think that's still going to be a problem. Alongside Montez Sweat, you still don't know what you're gonna get with Jalen Johnson. He may or may not play that week 1 game against Minnesota. We'll see. Still got a few weeks before we can figure that out. But I'm kind of like, look, I know we're not doing our predictions yet on win-loss records for the Bears, but like I've been saying the last few weeks, they're not going to be as bad as they were last year. But I'm not going to be one of those knuckleheads that's going to say, oh, they're going to win 10 or 11 games. It's going to be feasible.
Shout out to our guy Brandon Schutz in the chat. We see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Tell everybody you know about our show. With the schedule that you just read off before their bye week of the first week in October, at least in football, common sense would tell me that with the complicated offensive scheme that Ben Johnson's trying to implement with these guys throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, I think that tells me that they're going to run the ball, at least rely heavy on the run to start the year. And the reason why I bring this up because I think the running back room is going to be important. You still have DeAndre Swift, Travis Homer. Why is he still on this team as of now? I don't know. You still have Roshan Johnson, who's dealing with a foot injury, and you got Kyle Monangai. I think at least three of those guys, maybe two, but let's just say to be fair, three of those guys will be dependent on to start the year to carry this offense. And you mentioned by Caleb Williams, we only saw him in 4 drives. That's barely maybe a quarter, maybe into a quarter, not even a quarter and a half, an actual playing an actual quarter and a half of preseason football. Like I said, it's not enough to have a sample size. I don't think it's enough to judge him to give him that much more responsibility in his office. I think what you're going to see from this Bears team is that they're going to rely heavily on the run to start the year. You're going to see a lot of play action. And remember, LaKeena, we did see Caleb in some situations this preseason shotgun. You're going to see a whole lot more of him under center, especially to start the year. And let's not forget about our 2 tight ends with Cole Kmet and Colson Lovely. Expect to see more heavy dosage for them early to start the year. That's what it tells me.
Yeah, I know it's going to be very interesting to see. We'll see what cuts are made. Now, I think that Janae Walker, who caught that game-winning touchdown from Tyson Bagent against the Chiefs, I think he might have earned himself a roster spot. We'll see. So it's like I said, it's going to be interesting. They got until tomorrow at I think 3 o'clock our time here in the Central Time Zone to look. We'll see if which guys get that those final spots in the 53. Now to the rest of the NFL, real quick. Terry McLaurin looks like cooler heads have finally prevailed. Like we told you guys it would. He and the Commanders have agreed on a 3-year extension, $96 million, including $60 million guaranteed. So he gets his money, and look, now he gets to. I know it's going to be interesting to see how he looks because he hasn't played all preseason. So I know but I know Commanders fans are excited though with this move.
Yes, as you said, we told you guys this almost about a month ago that this was going to happen. The Commanders are expected to take a big step up this year after making it to the NFC title game last year before losing to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. You got Jaden Daniels, second-year quarterback at LSU. He picked up Deebo Samuel via trade from the 49ers. Now pairing up Terry McLaurin with Deebo Samuel. That's going to be I'm not going to say it's going to be a top wide receiver duo in the league, but it has the potential to be if Jaden Daniels stays healthy and he plays well and plays better than he did in his rookie year last year. Of course, on the defensive side of the ball, they signed Von Miller and Bobby Wagner was brought out a possible retirement to lead that defense once again. So expectations are high for the Commanders, and if everybody stays healthy for the most part, at least on the offensive side of the ball, expected to put up some major points again this year.
Going to be very interesting to see how Jaden Daniels look. I think that's going to be the key for them this year. Now, the Vikings were pretty busy. They trade Sam Howell to the Eagles, but they do sign Carson Wentz. So you got somebody who has, got a Super Bowl ring, and look, you got someone in the back end that, in case an off chance that JJ McCarthy does not fulfill expectations, you kind of have someone that could, look, we'll see if Kevin O'Connell gave Sam Darnold kind of like a second career. Maybe he can do the same to Wentz.
Yeah, you just reading my mind, young lady. You just reading my mind. It's too much, too good, too soon. But that was the same thing I thought about when I heard that news yesterday. It's like, remember, we heard the reports that J.J. McCarthy was not doing well early in camp, but that's just about everybody in the National Football League. But like you said, just in case the J.J. McCarthy experiment does not work, especially early in the year, they could turn to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has been backing up Patrick Mahomes for the last couple years. So, like you said, if Sam Darnold can do what he did last year and get paid, go somewhere else, maybe Carson Wentz, he is not going to get that much money like Sam Darnold did, but maybe he can stick around for a couple extra years. So we'll see how it happens with the Vikings. Say, as you mentioned, exactly 2 weeks from tonight, they'll play the Bears to start the year on Monday Night Football. They're going to be without Jordan Addison for the first 3 games because of suspension. Their defense is still good. Your offensive line is solid, at least on paper, but there's some problems out there in Minnesota. Hopefully the Bears can take advantage. But Kevin O'Connell, like you say, if he can solve this quarterback problem for this year, because everything, at least on paper, is in place, the Vikings could see themselves back in the playoffs again. But it's going to be a tough road to at least to start out. It all depends on what Mr. McCarthy does.
All right, going to take a really quick break, of course. We'll talk more NFL later because I know there's some notable cuts that took place over the weekend. But we're going to go to the college gridiron now as you'll talk to our buddy Dave Revsine for his, I guess you could say his annual thing. That's our third year doing this with him. But yeah, he's going to talk some college football now. Ohio State, could they repeat? Are Penn State legit contender for the national championship? What about Michigan and their new freshman quarterback? And Oregon could be right up there too. And what about Illinois? What they're going to be up to this year? So we have all that and a whole lot more. We'll talk nationally as well. Coming next, LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. College football talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and real live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McKeena McGee on the Twitter, execute on the IG.
As we get into our college football talk, including Big Ten and the rest of the college football pigskin, I know this is LaKeena's favorite time of year. You have any questions or comments for us regarding that subject, especially with our special guests coming up here in a sec, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you.
I think this is like the third year we've done this, Sid, and look, I look forward to this every year. He's one of the best in the business to cover college football and men's basketball too. But he's kind of like the emperor, the king. I don't know what
he's the godfather of the Big Ten Network. It's just that simple.
That's pretty much. He is the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Dave Revsine. Dave,
Yay!
Thanks, LaKeena. Thanks, Sid. Great to be on with both of you as always. I look forward to this every year.
So are we, and I know because Sid's not a big, Sid's more of like I don't want to say fair weather, but he's not too into college football as we are, but this is gonna be a lot of fun. So let's get right to it. Start with the defending champs, Ohio State. I mean, the cover isn't bare. I mean, you still got Jeremiah Smith, you got Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. Do you think the Buckeyes can repeat as national champions?
I think it's within the realm of possibility, definitely. I mean, it's going to be challenging. They have a first-year starting quarterback named Julian Sayin, the quarterback. We were there. It was still a camp battle when we were there. Lincoln Kienholz was battling him. It was interesting. Ryan Day kind of likened Lincoln Kienholz to Joe Burrow. It's a pretty favorable comparison because Joe Burrow went on to win the Heisman Trophy. But as you may recall, Joe Burrow did not win the starting job at Ohio State. The late Dwayne Haskins won that. And Julian Sayin is probably more in that mold. He's a really, really talented passer. And I think given how talented they are at receiver, LaKeena, it kind of made sense to go in that direction with Julian Sayin, the guy who is more of the big arm. Defensively, it's going to be fascinating. I mean, Matt Patricia is their defensive coordinator. People know him as an NFL head coach. He hasn't coached in college football in more than 20 years. So it's going to be an interesting adjustment. They lost Jim Knowles, who was the defensive coordinator last year. He actually went to Penn State as the DC for $3 million a year, which might sway some people to make moves. I don't think he's the only one who might make a move for that amount of money. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of storylines in Columbus as to whether or not they can repeat. That's the biggest question mark. They certainly have a ton of talent. I would say when we were at camp, it's hard not to be impressed, but they did lose 14 players to the NFL draft. They have a huge opener here coming up against Texas, so we'll get a really good measuring stick for them from the get-go, from week one.
Speaking of Ohio State, let's go to their rivals in the Michigan Wolverines. Of course, there's a lot of turnover from them too, but I want to focus more on them off the field. Of course, their head coach has been suspended to start the year against meaningless opponents. So yes, they technically got caught for cheating, but what should you think about the final verdict that came down for the NCAA? Because me personally, me and LaKeena talked about this last week. When is the last time the NCAA really showed strong leadership, especially now with NIL in the transfer portal? It's the Wild Wild West. Welcome to College Sports 2025. What did you think about the NCAA's final decision on the Michigan football program?
Well, I would say this, Sid. I think the NCAA is in a tough spot because I think that they have now said, hey, we don't really want to punish players for things that universities did before the players even got there or even while the players were there. So they've essentially said that the only way that you're going to have games stripped from you, wins stripped from you, championships in the case of Michigan, would be had you used ineligible players. And they've also said we're not going to institute postseason bans because, again, that punishes people who weren't there when all this went on. So they've kind of backed themselves into a corner. There's not really much they can do other than fine a school. I do think $30 million, and that's what it ends up being. Again, some of it is contingent on results on the field and whatnot, so you can't come up with an exact number. $30 million is not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, if you talk about just for instance, people talking about, well, will this coach be fired this year? They don't want to fire him because his buyout's $30 million. Like, that's a lot of money. So again, Michigan has a lot of money. I'm not insinuating that $30 million is going to cripple Michigan, but it is something. And that's really all that the NCAA feels like they have left at their disposal. I do think, to your point, Sid, it points out that the NCAA doesn't have the muscle that it once had behind it. NCAA enforcement is not as feared as it once was. Might there be another organization that would come in? I mean, there's been some talk of the schools and the conferences policing themselves as part of a different conglomerate. see what that would look like. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, what happened to Michigan certainly is going to cripple Michigan. Like, you don't look at that and say, how are they going to be able to compete here going forward? It just is, they're just be a little lighter in the wallet, I guess is what it comes down to.
Not exactly chump change for them now. On the field for them, Bryce Underwood, the true freshman QB from not too far from where the campus is, got this earned the starting job. I know Coach Moore said that he's earned it. They play New Mexico on Saturday, but they do travel to Norman to play Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. So what do you think he brings to the table for that Michigan offense?
Well, I was at practice on Friday, LaKeena. I'd say one thing he brings is a very large body. He is a huge man, young man. He just turned 18. He's 17 years old when camp started. He's a massive guy. I was standing with Desmond Howard, who is a former colleague of mine and of course, was a Heisman Trophy winner at Michigan, and just catch up with him. And we were talking about Underwood, and he said Dez's line was he ought to be the first guy off the bus because people would be so physically intimidated by him. I mean, he's just huge. He can throw the heck out of the ball. He's got a great arm. He's really good athlete. So they're going to be growing pains. I think Sharon admitted as much when he announced him as the starter today, which it was obvious he was going to be the starter. When we were there, I think part of that is that McGee, who they brought in with a thought that maybe either be the starter or someone who would play some sort of a role early on. He was limited the day that we were there, and it's obvious he's not 100%. He was injured during spring practice. So they're in a little bit of a bind. I mean, I think they kind of had to start Bryce Underwood. But I would also say it makes sense to start him just based on the talent he has. They're really good defensively. I know they lost 2 first-round picks on the defensive line, but, man, they got a bunch of bodies they can rotate through, really physically impressive group. So I don't think people are looking at Michigan necessarily as a team that wins the Big Ten this year. I think it was one person who picked them to do that in the preseason. I think it's more about, can you make the college football playoff? I think Michigan has a chance to be in that discussion. They actually have a pretty favorable schedule, which I think helps them. That Oklahoma game will be a challenging one coming up there in week 2. But I think Michigan has a chance to kind of ramp things up, and it's certainly not out of the question that they could be one of those teams since they're one of the 12 at the end.
We're talking Big Ten football and college football overall with our guy, Dave Revsine for the Big Ten Network right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sidney LaKeena here with you. Dave, another team that has high expectations this year, and that's in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. That's the Penn State Nittany Lions. How much pressure is on head coach James Franklin to get it done? They've been knocking on the door the last few seasons. Of course, we know how it ended last year with them in the college football playoff. Drew Aller, their quarterback, is back. How much pressure you think is on James Franklin to get them over the hump to get that national championship?
I think a fair amount. I mean, they haven't won a national championship since the mid-'80s. This is their best chance. I mean, this is a loaded team. It's very similar to what happened with Michigan 2 years ago, with Ohio State a year ago, where there were players who could have gone pro, who decided to come back. You mentioned Drew Aller, the quarterback, is one of them. They have a bunch of guys. You know, Dennis Sutton on the defensive line. You kind of go down the list, both of their running backs. And they have 2 of the 3 leading active rushers in college football right now in the same backfield, in Nicholas Singleton and Kayshawn Allen. I mean, they're just absolutely loaded. The issue last year was a wide receiver. I mean, it's amazing. You think about that college football playoff semifinal against Notre Dame. They did not complete a single pass to a wide receiver in the game, and yet they were right there at the end of the game. I mean, they easily could have won the game.
Yeah.
One last drive there. So to be that close and not have a single catch from a wide receiver, it's crazy to think that. They really improved that wide receiver group. So I think that's going to help them. They're way ahead of where they were a year ago. Trevor Pena looked really good when we were at camp. I think he helps them a lot. They got a number of guys out of the portal who I think will help. There is a lot of pressure. James Franklin, this has been, well, first of all, the rap before was, well, he can't make the playoff. And then they expand to 12. And not only did they make it, but let's give props here. They won 2 games and they came pretty close to winning a 3rd. So I think last year was a rousing success for them. But now you're in this spot where can you win the big one? They've won 1 game this century against a top 5 team. They're 1-25, I believe it is. against the top 5. So that predates James Franklin. I mean, that's Joe Paterno as well. Let's see. You got 2 opportunities this year. You have the huge game against Oregon. We'll see whether they're in the top 5 or not, but that's the whiteout in Happy Valley. And then obviously the Ohio State game as well. Can you win one of those? And even if you don't win one of those, you could end up in the playoff and maybe you win one of those top 5 games in the postseason. But there is a lot of pressure. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah, speaking of Oregon, I think I don't want to say they're under the radar, but I haven't seen a lot of people talk about him. I think Coach Lemmy actually likes it that way, so he probably doesn't mind it. I think he's a defensive guy, so of course that front seven are monsters. So they might be probably one of the best in the Big Ten now. The offense, though, of course, Dylan Gabriel's gone, a couple other guys are gone. So where do you see Oregon this season?
So I didn't get to see them in camp. I didn't do the West Coast schools. My colleague Ashley Adamson did those. So it's more just kind of talking to people and what I was able to glean at Big Ten Media Days and by talking to people who have been at practice. I still think everyone I've talked to feels like this is a really talented team still. Like, I get that they lost a lot. I get that you have, I don't want to say an unproven starting quarterback because Dante Moore, first of all, was the #1 quarterback recruit in the country a couple of years ago. And then he was the part-time starter at UCLA 2 seasons ago. He threw for over 1,500 yards, went to Oregon. I really respect the move he made. Went there to essentially be the understudy last year to, as you mentioned, LaKeena, to Dylan Gabriel. They've got a great track record there. Like, you look at Will Stein, last 2 starting quarterbacks, they both finished 3rd in the Heisman. Bo Nix preceded Dylan Gabriel. We know how good Bo Nix has proven to be in the NFL as well. So it's a great track record. They're really talented in wide receiver. They did some good things in the portal. I think that'll help them a lot. Like Dylan Thieneman, defensively from Purdue at safety, one of the best defenders in the Big Ten these last couple of years. I think he'll be a huge help. We'll see. I think they're at a point now where you just assume they're going to be there. I mean, Dan Lanning is really good, and I would fully expect Oregon to be in the college football playoff, come the end of the season. But I agree with what you're saying, LaKeena, that it's a little different vibe than last year. It's a little strange that we're talking about a team that won the regular season, was #1 for much of the year, won the Big Ten championship game as well. I mean, they're not off the radar. They're ranked 7th in the country. But I just don't feel like people are talking about them as this team could win the national championship. Maybe a few people here and there. But, I hats off to what Dan Lanning has done. And I'm not going to be one who's going to doubt Oregon. I think they're going to be really good.
Another team that's expected to be at a high level, but it's going to be difficult, that came out of nowhere last year, and that was the Indiana Hoosiers. They finished the year last year at 8-1, 11-2 overall before losing to Notre Dame at Irish Stadium in the inaugural college football playoff. As we say all the time, Dave, as you well know, not just in college sports, but professional sports as well, you're the hunter until you win. Now you become the hunted. What do you expect from the Hoosiers this year? Many people expect them to crash and burn. Some people still expect them to be competitive, but it's not going to be nowhere near last year. Do you buy that narrative of how you see the Hoosiers for 2025?
Well, I could crash and burn. Kurt Cignetti knows what he's doing. The guy's coached 157 games in college football, and he's 103 games over 500. Like, that's pretty hard to do. He's really good. I was really impressed with them. I kind of came in thinking, well, they'll definitely take a step back. Their schedule's a lot harder, no doubt. But, man, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback they brought in from Cal, I mean, I'm telling you, Sid, he can make every throw. They're incredibly talented at wide receiver. They improved the offensive line, which was the area where they were deficient in the biggest games last year, Ohio State and Notre Dame, the 2 games they lost. Write the Hoosiers off at your own peril, man. I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they may not make the playoff, but I think they'll be okay. Now, Illinois, I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but they surprised some people last year. They had a great end of the season. They beat South Carolina in their bowl game. As Luke Altmaier goes, so does Illinois. Do you think Illinois perhaps maybe be a sleeper to win the Big Ten?
Well, they're certainly in that conversation. I mean, you don't sneak up on anyone when you're ranked 12th in the country. And Brett really wanted this. Brett Bielema really wanted this, right? I mean, he has talked up his team in the preseason. I think he's made a point to say to people, hey, look at what we got coming back. I mean, they have 18 players who started their bowl game a season ago. As you were talking about, a great win over South Carolina, a team that a lot of people thought belonged in the college football playoff last year. There's a ton of talent. I worry a little bit about wide receiver because they did lose some big-time players there. Pat Bryant, I think, was one of the best wide receivers in the country a season ago. But, man, they're loaded. I mean, Luke Altmaier is incredibly talented. I love the backfield. It's a veteran offensive line. They bring back a ton on defense. Gabe Akis is a terror. Frankly, the secondary's loaded. I think really, really good. I think Illinois is going to be right there. I mean, I know Illini fans, there's this feeling of when there's a lot expected of them recently, they haven't always come through. But, I mean, expectations are through the roof. They've sold out season tickets. I think it's going to be a great year in Champaign.
Keeping with the Illinois theme, Dave, I know you weren't down there on their training camp, Dave, for the episode, but I was watching the episode yesterday via my DVR, and I noticed
Nice.
thank you. I noticed that defensive coordinator Aaron Henry has an interesting story now. He's a father of two young girls. He talked about that in his interview that I watched yesterday, but it seems like his players really gravitates towards him. Of course, his unit has improved over the last couple of years, giving them 21 points last year compared to 29 2 years ago. From your vantage point, what does his other defensive assistants and players say about him?
Oh, Aaron Henry's an awesome guy. I mean, someone who Brett Bielema coached at Wisconsin, and really, I mean, it was essentially like a volunteer assistant, and it's just kind of worked his way up to become a defensive coordinator. And he had some big shoes to fill. I remember Ryan Walters 2 years ago, who ended up going to Purdue, and it didn't work out particularly well as a head coach, to say the least, but now he's at Washington as a DC. I mean, Ryan Walters is one of the premier defensive coordinators in the country. They were number one in the nation in scoring defense 2 years ago. And so those were some big shoes to fill for Aaron Henry. And year one wasn't great. It took a little bit of a step back defensively. And I give Aaron a ton of credit. He just rolled up his sleeves. And that first year that he and his wife had twins, as a fellow parent of twins, I know how challenging that first year can be. But Aaron's done an amazing job. And I have a ton of respect for him. His players love him. I would say that about this entire staff in Illinois. It really is. They say family. You really sense it when you're down there. I mean, part of getting guys to come back in this day and age, anyone can leave at any time, right? I mean, after the season, to have that many players come back, especially players with NFL potential, speaks volumes about the kind of staff you built.
I remember Aaron when he was at Wisconsin. He was a stud defensive back. So yes, very hell of a player. Now let's talk about the rest of the Big Ten for a little bit here. Do you see any? I don't want to say sleepers, but who do you think will have a really great year this year? You got the LA schools. You have Iowa, Northwestern, Sid Sky, PJ Fleck over in Minnesota. So what about the rest of the Big Ten? Give us a little quick.
I love PJ's team. We had a great time when we were there. He's got an unproven quarterback in Drake Lindsay, but I think they're going to be really good on defense. They have maybe the most exciting two-way player in the country in Coy Parrish. So PJ, you just know what you're going to get. They're really solid year in and year out. I'm excited about Washington. I think Washington has a chance to be very good. Damon Williams, incredibly talented quarterback. You add in Jonah Coleman, who's an outstanding running back. They're talented at wide receiver with Denzel Boston. I think Jed Fish is poised to have a really good year there. Nebraska has a chance to be very good. Dylan Raiola was exceptional when we were there. They broke through last year. They ended that bowl drought, which is crazy to think that Nebraska had the longest bowl drought in power conference football. If you would have told me that when I was, 20 years ago covering college football as a younger sportscaster, I would have said you're out of your mind, because they were, as good a program as there was nationally. But it was what it was. I think they're in a spot to have a very good season. Iowa's interesting. They bring in Mark Gronowski, a quarterback. Their quarterback play's been deficient here over the last few years. He won a couple national championships at South Dakota State. He certainly is more talented than the guys they had in there over the last couple of years, with all due respect to the players who were there. I think their wide receiver group's a little bit better than they've been, and they'll be good on defense. So, I think it's a really talented middle in the Big Ten, frankly. And, we haven't even talked about, to your point, LaKeena, USC is going to be good. UCLA got maybe the most highly touted transfer in the portal, and Nico Iamaleava to come in and play quarterback. So you can just go down the list. Big Ten's going to be really talented this year, and I think that middle is going to be incredibly competitive.
We're heading down the home stretch with our guy, Dave Revsine from the Big Ten Network, talking college football, Big Ten football in general, right here on Second City Sports or on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Now, another episode I did watch yesterday, Dave, courtesy of my DVR, was your episode with Jake Budd following the Northwestern Wildcats. So, of course, running back Cam Porter is returning. They have a new quarterback named Preston Stone, the transfer out of SMU. And it seems like folks around that program really like him. Talk to us about what you saw at practice on that day you filmed that episode.
Sid, for the life of me, I can't understand why more people nationally aren't talking about Preston Stone. Like, if you look at his stats from 2 years ago, he was 15th in the nation in passing efficiency. He was ahead of Michael Penix, who led Washington to the national championship game, Drake May, who we know how highly thought of he was, Quinn Ewers. I mean, he had a great year, and then he got hurt at the end of the year. And last year, he wasn't quite ready to come back. And then Kevin Jennings came in and had an amazing year and led SMU to the playoff. But Preston Stone can make every throw. I mean, he is a big-time quarterback. So I think there's a lot to be excited about in Evanston. They had to get better on the offensive line, and they have. I'm not sure about wide receiver. I mean, that's the one area you wonder about a little bit. Griffin Wilde, who they brought in from South Dakota State, will be their number one receiver. He's really good. The depth is a little bit of a question mark. But then, I mean, on defense, like Antosaka guys, like you go through these mock drafts. I've seen 2 mock drafts now with Antosaka as a first-round pick. The Athletics and ESPN.com both have him going in the first round. He's a monster off the edge for Northwestern. So I think people are selling the Wildcats a little bit short. Their schedule is very challenging, starting with a game Saturday at Tulane, where it's probably going to be about 106 with 99% humidity. So it's going to be a challenging opener. But they're better, I think, than people are giving them credit for sure.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be competing for a bowl game. I feel like Saka, that guy's a stud, like you said. That guy's going to be playing on Sunday.
Big time player.
Going to be playing on Sundays, I think, next year. Now, let's talk about nationally real quick, Dave. Now, some of your early, of course, we know Texas, Georgia, Clemson. Like, what's your kind of like, sort of on the microcosm of what you think is going to happen nationally?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously know our schools much better just because I get to go to training camp. I don't get to go to Texas's or Georgia's or Clemson's training camp. So I guess my sense is kind of I'm just going to defer to what the pollsters are saying to start the year and then judge for myself. Kind of what I try to do is as the year goes on, I DVR key games and I watch stuff back on Sundays and try to get a sense for what's going on in the rest of the country. I'm fascinated to see Texas against Ohio State here coming up on Saturday. I mean, it's crazy to me that you enter a season with Arch Manning, who's really never been a starting quarterback, although immensely, immensely talented. And he is the preseason favorite for the Heisman. I mean, it really speaks volumes about how talented people think he is. So I'm excited to see it. I mean, bring it on. I can't wait for Saturday. Can't wait for Thursday, frankly, when we get going in the Big Ten.
Speaking of Arch Manning, of course, he leads the list, as you mentioned, as a Heisman Trophy candidate. I think he's the leader amongst many pollsters. But you have Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State as well, the sub wide receiver. You have Cade Kluman, the quarterback out of Clemson. Do you see any other Big Ten guys that could be at least in the top 10 and not top 5 competing for the Heisman Trophy this year?
Sure. I mean, I think if Drew Aller has a big year, I could see him being in the conversation. Coy Parrish, I mean, if Minnesota has a big year, he's in that Travis Hunter mold. He's going to play offense and defense. So I'd say those are 2 that would come to mind right away.
Yeah, that's this guy from Minnesota. So yeah, you'll keep an eye on Mr. Parrish, I believe. Now, you do a great job. We talked about it. We're not saying it verbatim because you guys do a great job there. So what do you guys have coming up this season?
Well, kind of our normal programming, really excited about everything. Big Ten Today every day at 11 o'clock Central Time and coverage all day on Saturday. I mean, we're on from, 9 o'clock in the morning Central until about 3 o'clock in the morning when all the games are over and we do our wrap-up show. So encourage people to check it out. We're your home for Big Ten football all day and all week.
Last question from me, Dave, before we spring you. I know you know.
I'm sorry, guys. I need to get going. I got another call. I got to be on here.
Okay.
Top of the hour, so
Okay.
I don't mean to cut you off, but always a pleasure to be on with both of you.
Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We'll try to get you on during the college hoop season too.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, Sid.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Take care, Dave. All right, that was the one and only Big Ten Network's Dave Revsine here on Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. So let's towel off here and let's get a commercial break. We're going to talk some more NFL as more cuts are coming coming down the pike. Even some big names actually got the cuts, and MLB, of course, you've got. Of course, you got the Cubs, getting within 5 and more doable 5, and Colson Montgomery leading the White Sox. So all that, a whole lot more. LaKeena McGee today around Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Baseball at hour 2 coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on Monday Extravaganza. This year, live loaded, and we're live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, alongside Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't City, bro. You better know by now it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
As we kick off hour number 2 discussing Cubs, White Sox, and the rest and the best and worst of Major League Baseball for this past weekend, you definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Starting out in SoCal as the Cubs sweep the Angels, and it looks like Kyle Tucker is back. Well, he had a couple of home runs during the Angels series. Nico Horner had an RBI double against good old Cubby Kyle Hendricks as the Cubs complete the sweep over the Angels. And I don't know if Kyle Tucker is back, but I think this is a nice way to kind of like get away from the noise of Chicago, being kind of in the heat of Southern California, kind of starting to kind of find his rhythm back. So maybe he might be turning the corner.
Well, this will be huge for this Cubs team as we nearing the dog days of summer as we get into the end of August and going to the home stretch in September. September is Labor Day, which starts next Monday. But this was huge for the Chicago Cubs to get away from it all after taking 3 of 5 from the Milwaukee Brewers around this time last week, which should have been 4 or 5, but that's everybody's calling you fatigue. Going on the road and playing well, especially against a lesser team than the Anaheim Angels. Even though they improved this year, you needed to take care of business against a lesser opponent, and that's what they did this weekend.
Yeah, I think I think this was definitely like I said, get away from the noise and all that other stuff, and guys starting to kind of get back on track a little bit. I know PCA had a couple of hits. He had a home run in that Friday game against the Angels. Like I said, Tucker hit 2 home runs and drove in 5. So I think this is sort of like the Cubs are kind of like this is kind of like how I'm not saying they're turning the corner, but I think getting away from all the craziness that happened especially during that Brewers series. Probably should have won 4 out of 5, like you said, but I think giving them a chance to kind of like, feeling sort of like, okay, let's get away from the noise, let's do what they do. And they've done just that. And during that Saturday game, they became the first MLB team to have a dozen or more RBIs in the game, with none of them coming from the middle 5. It was actually so that the front and the back end guys that actually were doing their thing. So I think that was really helpful for them, and it showed folks that they can. That they can probably win this. And look, 5 games is not insurmountable. It's very doable. They're kind of like the tougher part of their schedule. They don't face a team that's over 500 until maybe about this time next month. So they actually got a chance to stack up some wins here. You got the Giants. They got to go at Coors Field, Colorado, to finish up that West Coast swing. Then you got Atlanta, sandwiched in between the Nationals. Also, you got Tampa and Pittsburgh. So you've got, look, there are wins there. If you can win, just win the series. That's all you can ask for. Just take it one series at a time. Don't get caught looking ahead. Don't look at what the Brewers are doing. Just concentrate on what they're doing, and you can definitely maybe chip away at that Brewers lead. Oh, Sid had to go off for a second. I think his Wi-Fi kind of went out, but yeah, I'll just realized I was talking to myself here, but yeah, I think if you're the Cubs, I think you want to try to get back into it and such. I rattle off the schedule. Let me tell what's happening during this Giants series coming up this week. It'll be Colin Ray against Matthew Boyd, I should say, against Justin Verlander. That's tonight's game. Then you got Colin Ray against Wisenhunt. Then you got Shota against Webb. So there is a chance that the Cubs could win 2 out of 3, but look, we know that in the Bay Area that it's a little bit of a kind of a craziness how sometimes weird things happen there with the Giants. So, but even still, I think if you can win 2 out of 3, I think that can make it even a better slide here. So yeah, let me as we wait for Sid to refresh real quick before he rejoins me here. But yeah, listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. Hopefully he'll rejoin us in a second here as we talk some baseball. Now, like I said, the Cubs. Like I said, the Cubs are. Look, I think the Giants are kind of one of those teams that they were right there in the thick of it for the National League West. They were right there for the wild card, but they're starting to fade fast. To their credit, though, they did help the Cubs out a little bit by taking 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. Now, they did have to go at Milwaukee. They had to travel back. Now, of course, the Cubs, they had to travel, but they only had to travel maybe like 2 hours to, up north to San Francisco from just outside Anaheim where they were. And then And of course, the Giants had to come in from Milwaukee, so you gotta think that maybe advantage comes, and they do have the day off, so they'll be able to rest a little bit, and the Cubs will be able to get a little bit of rest to kind of like sort of like get going and such. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this Giants series and seeing what happened here. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what entails in this series. But yeah, that Giants series is going to be very interesting. Now, like I said, just win 2 out of 3. I know sweeping is going to be very tough, but I think winning just get to 2 out of 3. Then you can concentrate on some of those other games that I talked about. That should be, I don't want to say easy, because there's no such thing as easier games. The Nationals have actually been playing pretty well lately, but they should be right there in the thick of it. To at least like I said, chip away at those wins against the Brewers. Now, I know that since White Sox, I know they got a series win against Minnesota. That's huge. Also, Colson Montgomery hitting 3 home runs during that series against the Twins and winning 2 out of 3. I think this is like the first time in a couple of years that the Sox have won 2 out of 3 against the Twins and at G rate. So that's huge for them. So I'm like I said, I think the White Sox could be one of those teams where if they can finish strong. They face the Royals starting tonight, so that's going to be an interesting series there. I know the Royals are right there to think of it for the AL wildcard spot, so they actually have a slim chance perhaps of maybe taking that slot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there in that series. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I kind of think that this is going to be kind of like how all this sort of shakes out and whatnot. Now, I think for me in that series against the Twins, like I said, Colson Montgomery was, hitting the ball very well for them. He can definitely is, starting to become one of those pieces that the White Sox could use, perhaps maybe get a chance to perhaps maybe build around. So yeah, I think I saw where he's hit, I think like 12 home runs since I believe June, like maybe mid-July. So he's been one of the top home run hitters in baseball within the last month. So that's really solid if you're a White Sox fan. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here now. Looking at some of the White Sox game, like I said, that Royals series, that's going to be very interesting. Like I said, to see if the Royals if the Sox can derail the Royals' slim playoff chances, if you will. So going to be very interesting there. As we're going to take a really quick break, of course, going to step out for a second, see if I can see if Sid everything's okay and he can kind of get back on with us. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
All right, and welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I think Sid's back on with us. I think. There we go.
Yeah, the internet connections, they're no joke, and I have no control of it. But I apologize.
All right. So what about so let's talk about finish talking about this Cubs series against the Giants. I said that if it's gonna be a little bit tough, but the Giants have kind of faded out real quick. So where do you see this series for the Cubs? I think we. I think the. I think we. I think we've lost. I think we might have lost it again. That the darn Wi-Fi. But yeah, I think you're frozen, Sid. But yeah, but it'll be interesting to. All right, hold on. Let me, because you're frozen, and I think it might have to. I'll say I think Sid might have to do another refresh of whatever console he is. But yeah, we'll let's see. We'll try to see if we can establish a connection again. Like I said, gotta love 2025 technology. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting though with this Cubs series. Like I said, the White Sox. Well, let's talk about the rest of baseball because I think that's really the kind of like interesting to see what happened over the weekend and such here. So let's start with that Yankees Red Sox series. The Red Sox did win 3 out of 4. But the Yankees definitely got a big win on Sunday Night Baseball yesterday, 7-2. So it looks like they're starting to kind of get back, going here. So like I said, they're 5.5 back of Toronto. We'll talk about Toronto in a minute here, but Toronto is going to be interesting. That whole AL East, I think, is still a lot to be decided. So it's really just going to depend on, I guess, how these teams execute, especially in that division for the rest of the season. So, that's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens there. But let's see the rest of the MLB. And now as far as like Toronto didn't, had a good showing. They took care of business against the Marlins. I'm sure Toronto fans are probably hoping that they should have swept them. But again, look, it's this point of season. You'll take what you can get. So yeah, taking 2 out of 3 against the Marlins is not the end of the world. So look, you won the series. That's the important thing. Now, as far as the rest of the AL, we'll talk about the Detroit. Detroit, speaking of the Royals, they beat the Royals. We'll talk about Detroit did 2 out of 3. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out here. It looks like they're starting to kind of get into get back into the swing of things. They're taking back control of that division. So 10.5 back up on I think Kansas City. Oh, there you are, Sid. We'll try this. Take 3, as they say. So we'll talk about the we'll talk about the we'll talk the Cubs Giants series, and you can talk about the White Sox getting 2 out of 3 against the Twins.
The White Sox, They won their last 2 games, courtesy of Colson Montgomery. That guy's been amazing. I believe 12, 13 home runs now since the All-Star break. We talked about the trouble he had to start the year down in Charlotte in the minor leagues. He had to be sent down to Arizona to straighten himself out. He's come back like a man on the mission. He's been very impressive for the White Sox. Everybody got a hit in that lineup yesterday, except for Chase Mydroff, who's still trying to work his way back after returning from the IL a couple of weeks ago. Gomez pitched well yesterday. I think he had 90 pitches yesterday. He pitched well. And so the Minnesota Twins, we know about their story. Of course, their ownership is going to keep the team, which is bad, but we'll get into that another time. But the White Sox offense came alive this weekend. They nearly won the game on Friday in comeback fashion, but they came up short. But last Saturday night and yesterday, Sunday afternoon's contest shows the potential of this team going forward. And they the White Sox also got some good starting pitchers I mentioned too, especially in yesterday's contest with Gomez. So the White Sox, I begged for last week on the show, give me more runs, give me some offense, especially after we saw in Atlanta they brought out the offense, but they couldn't give the pitching outside of Martin Perez to start, which they lost last Wednesday. But the offense is going to continue to roll, and Venables has his guys playing for him. So hopefully they'll continue tonight against Kansas City. Fortunately, as a Sox fan, we have them here instead of going to Kansas City. So maybe we can get sneak in a game or two out of them. Shane Smith, I know, goes tonight for the Southside Hitmen. So hopefully the White Sox continue to build on this and what they did last weekend. Taking on a better opponent in Kansas City, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Salvador Perez though is a Sox killer, so you still got to
yes.
him. Speaking of Shane Smith, he faces Noah Cameron tonight over at G-Rate. Then you've got Perez versus Michael Lorenzen and Aaron Savale versus Ryan Bergert. So I think the White Sox could win one. Now, could they win two? I think that would be even better. But yeah, I think the White Sox, if Colson Montgomery keeps hitting the ball, I think he could definitely help the Sox maybe steal one of those games from the Royals. So, but we'll see. It's going to be, like I said, the White Sox, they got a nice series win against the Twins. So, here. So I think that's really important. See if they can build on it.
Yeah. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. We'll talk about the rest of baseball here quickly. I know the Yankees won last night. Chas Chisholm booting the ball all weekend. He delivered 2 home runs last night as the Yankees held off the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox won this series over the weekend, LaKeena. We talked about Boston punting on the season after they traded Rafael Devers. It looks like the young squad is starting to get better. Rafael, their second baseman, is really playing well in the infield. Rome Anthony, their center fielder, has really come on strong. Garrett Crochet had a nice performance last Saturday afternoon. It helps when your team scores 12 runs for you, but Crochet is a top candidate for the AL Cy Young Award. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse ahead of Tariq Skubal, in my opinion, for the Detroit Tigers. Boston, can we start to finally take them seriously? Because call me crazy. I think that the Toronto Blue Jays will end up winning the AL East, but I think Boston, I think we should start taking them just a little bit more seriously than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I think the people want to wait and see if they're still within striking distance after the month is over with. I know they play the Orioles starting tonight, but in Baltimore. But I'm kind of like, I think everyone's kind of in wait and see because they really don't know what to think of it. I know they won 3 out of 4 against the Yankees, but I think it was definitely one of those things where you can kind of, like I said, well, we'll see. But I think Boston's one of those teams where you really don't know what you're getting sometimes. So I think that's probably why people are still skeptical of this Red Sox squad. But again, look, if they're still within it after Labor Day, fine. I think there's no reason why they shouldn't be. But I think this is sort of like, I think people are kind of wondering, like, okay, what are we expecting from this group? So we'll see what happens. Now, I did talk about Detroit. Now that Detroit, they extended their lead. They won 2 out of 3 against Kansas City. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there as they go up 10.5 on the Royals. Houston and Seattle, they're still battling it out. Seattle, I know they won 2 out of 3 against the A's, and Houston won 3 out of 4 against Baltimore. So it's going to be interesting to see what those two. I think Houston is up 2 right now. They face the Rockies, I should say, and the Mariners. They got a tough one against the Padres. So, but they do face each other within the next couple of weeks. So that could be for the division. So we'll see.
Congrats to Colorado becoming the first player, I believe, in MLB history to lead the league in home runs as a primary catcher. I believe he has 49 home runs now. And so, as far as this season, he's the greatest home run hitting catcher of all time. So, aka the big dumper. So, as we've said before, he's leading the charge in the lineup. You still have Josh Naylor, who they acquired via trade, Randy Rosarena from a year ago. And, of course, you have Eugenio Suarez, who's been a big old send in the infield at third base for your Mariners. So the Mariners are not going away. They just got to get more consistent on offense. You have the pitching. Brian Rule is a sneaky candidate for AL Cy Young. You still have Logan Gilbert there. You have a solid bullpen as well. So Seattle's not going away. Houston's a different team. They're a good team, but they're a different team. So it's like I said, it's going to come down to the final weekend, perhaps the final day. So buckle up. It's going to be one hell of a ride.
Could be very interesting at AL West. Now going to the National League in the East. Unfortunately, Zach Wheeler, as we said, they made it official that he is done for the year. But luckily, they do have a lot of depth in their pitching. They did win 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. Now they do face the Mets. Now the Mets have not been very good lately. We talked about the Mets struggles, so you could catch them at if you're the Mets, you can probably catch them there without to face Wheeler. But they did win 2 out of 3 against Atlanta. Talking about the Mets, so these two teams. Now, do you see the Mets perhaps maybe taking a couple of these games?
If the Mets can get back to being consistent on offense and get at least a respectable performance out of their bullpen, I think they can. But until they show me, I don't believe in them. Now, can they be a playoff team? Possibly, but this I don't know. I don't know if you remember my prediction about the Mets when the season started. I said they're not going to make the playoffs only because things had to go right for them last year. Maybe there's King Cohen calling you, but the reason why I didn't have the Mets making the playoffs last year because certain things had to fall in line for them last year just to make the playoffs or go on the run they did. I don't see those same things happening for them this year. Yes, they have Juan Soto, and I know he's looking at his numbers. Oh, he's putting up big numbers. Look at that batting average, not so stellar. So we'll leave it at that. But you still have Pete Alonso. You still have Francisco Lindor, who still has to get it going. You got Jeff McNeil. You have Cedric Mullins. It looks like he's starting to get it going a little bit. So the Mets just got to be more consistent on offense. And yes, they did something they haven't done in a while. Take a series from Atlanta, which is a big step for them. But they got to be more consistent on offense and get the starting pitching hasn't been that bad, but you got to get some respectable performances out of your bullpen because you don't have a good bullpen going into the playoffs. You have no shot. That's just the bottom line.
Aha. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. That series coming up. Now the Brewers, they've lost 2 in a row. Oh, really? They beat the they lose to the Giants 2 out of 3. So, and they've actually lost, I think, like 7 of their last 10. So I'm wondering, perhaps that maybe things are starting to kind of fall off a little bit for the Brewers. I mean, look, there was no way, we said this before, there was no way they were going to be able to keep at that pace. And the Cubs are right there at 5 games. And like I said, 5 games, I know that might seem like a lot, but there's still about 6 or 7 weeks left in the season. So it is very doable.
Yeah, wrapping up my point about the Cubs earlier before the powerful internet guys decided to yank my voice. We talk about guys like Kyle Tucker, PCA, and Ian Happ to a lesser extent that carries your lineup. But it's those other guys like Nico Horner and Dancer Swanson that has to get it going. For the Cubs, just knock a game or 2 off a week, and you're right there. For the Cubs, just quickly on them. Just when you have to win as long as you win every series, you're in the playoffs. Let me repeat that again. As long as the Cubs take care of their business and win every series, they're in the playoffs. The question is, can they catch Milwaukee? I'm not saying that they can't, even though I predicted them to win the division at the beginning of the year. Like I said, 5 games is still doable. For the Cubs, you just have to take care of your own business, and you'll be right there. But as far as Milwaukee is concerned, yes, I know they're getting Jackson Chourio back, and they're still getting a couple other guys back as well. I know Jake Murasky is back. You saw what he did in Chicago last week. So the Milwaukee's starting to get a few guys back. but their schedule is going to get a little bit tougher too. While the Cubs, at least on paper, is a little bit easier. But for the Cubs, if they win every series, they're in the playoffs.
I agree. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting here to see what happens. Now, the Wild Wild West, of course, are the Dodgers and the Padres. Now, the Padres won 2 out of 3, but the Dodgers did kept themselves getting swept yesterday. And Shohei Ohtani smashed his 45th home run after being heckled. He actually dapped the heckler after hitting that home run, that 45th home run. That was hilarious. So if you guys didn't see it, but well, actually, the Dodgers actually yelled at their backs to talk, and they cranked out 4 home runs in total. And Freddie Freeman, I know Dalton Rushing had hit the tiebreaker 3-run shot to help break that, kind of break things open there. But yeah, they're now tied right now as we're recording this. Sid, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, if you were to ask me who has the edge right now, I think it's the Dodgers, only because I don't trust the Padres. We're talking about not trusting the Mets. I don't trust the Padres because they do all this against the Dodgers, but yeah, when they face everybody else, like you saw what happened, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. So I don't know if I trust the Dodgers. Sorry, Herb, love you, but I don't Herb more because a big Padres fan, of course, after being a big White Sox fan. I don't trust the Padres.
Yeah, then we talked about them all year again on their long, big run. We just haven't seen it this year. And this is the year that the Dodgers are down because of their injuries and lack of starting pitching and whatnot. Give credit to Yoshinobu Yamamoto yesterday. He pitched his tail off yesterday. I know he just got back a few weeks ago from the IL. And maybe he's starting to get some other guys back in Blake Snell and Tyler Glass now, too. So hopefully you get something out of those guys. And the bullpen has been up and down as well. But offensively, Mookie Betts is starting to work his way back a little bit. And you mentioned Freddie Freeman with those 2 big home runs for the Dodgers. They just, as we said all year, they got to get their guys back, key guys back healthy to make a possible run in October. Because what they did a year ago, especially with these bullpen games, is not going to get it done. You got to get back to their starting pitching. You got to play better defense as well. I'm with you. I think they still going to win the NL West. I think it's just going to be a little bit tougher than what we thought at the beginning of the year. So, can the Padres, even though this series more served them than the Dodgers, can we expect them now to go on that big run to distance themselves between them and the Dodgers? I don't know if they can.
Going into the scheduling here, it's going to get a little bit interesting. Starting Monday, today's schedule, you got the Red Sox and the Orioles. We'll see how that goes. Atlanta and Miami. This is going to be the FS1 Monday game. You got Tampa and Cleveland, Washington and the Yankees. We'll see if the Yankees can kind of get things back on track. Minnesota, they face Toronto. And, of course, the big series, Philadelphia and the Mets. So we'll see how that series goes. And Arizona and continues their East Coast trip at Milwaukee.
All right, other games, series that are starting tonight. Kansas City at Chicago against the White Sox on the south side. Pittsburgh at St. Louis. And Christine's husband's team, Chris's team, the Anaheim Angels, had to be swept by the Cubs. They go down to Arlington to take on the Texas Rangers. Speaking of the Padres, they'll take on your Mariners starting tonight. And, of course, on MLB Network, the Tigers will take on the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we call them on this show, while others will see the Cincinnati Reds at the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Also, Colorado against Houston. Double checking to see if there's any other games we mentioned. Let's say Pittsburgh. Oh, there we go. We did the Pittsburgh, St. Louis. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, I think that was the only one that we didn't
and the Cubs-Giants start tomorrow.
Yes, the Cubs and Giants, as well as the Pirates and St. Louis. Your MLB, your National League games, Philadelphia and the Mets. The second game of that huge series for the Mets, anyway. Then you got Detroit and the A's and the Reds and the Dodgers both on MLB Network tomorrow. Then you got a whole slew of MLB Network games. You got the Nationals and the Yankees. They finished up their series. Tampa Bay and Cleveland, as well as San Diego and Seattle, both on MLB Network. And then you got your FS1 game for Wednesday. You got Pittsburgh and St. Louis.
All right. And for Thursday, Thursday. We'll review the Thursday games coming up on our next show on Friday. And that's your schedule for MLB for this week. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here with you. Flipping the script next is our sports potpourri segment. Anything goes in the world of sports in entertainment, sports, media news. Any leftover thoughts from my topics that we discussed thus far, and a whole lot more. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena, and you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McKee McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any questions or comments for us in our sports potpourri segment, with which almost anything goes for this segment for our last half hour of the show. If you have any questions or comments of any other topics that we discussed thus far on the program, you definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
The NFL, of course, we talked about it earlier. They're doing the cuts, your annual cuts, if you will. Starting today and going to tomorrow, because you got to get the squad down to the 53-man coming up tomorrow. Now the Bears have made some cuts. If I can get some of our people's up here, they cut running back Royce Freeman and Trey Flowers. As soon as I mentioned Trey Flowers, he gets cut. They cut 11 players. Those were two of the cuts. So any of the cuts, did you see the list and did any of the cuts surprise you?
No, I'm just wondering if Ian Wheeler, the second-year running back out of Howard for the Bears, will he be cut by this time tomorrow? I know we said on Friday if he played, it would have been a redemption for him because he tore his ACL playing the Chiefs last year. Of course, he didn't play in the last preseason game, so worry about the running back room for Chicago. Will Ian Wheeler have a leg up? Will he be cut? Will he be reassigned to the practice squad because he's looked good so far this season? Will the Bears think him enough, if not keep him on a 53-man roster and keep him on the practice squad? The reason why I say this is because Roshan Johnson has a foot injury, and we don't know if he's going to be ready in 2 weeks. So Ian Wheeler's future, I believe, is in doubt.
Yeah, going to be very interesting. There are going to be more notable names that are going to get cut, though. It's going to be kind of interesting. Like I said, then you might see some familiar names. So, well, Trey Flowers got released, and so did Royce Freeman, and as well as lineman Joshua Miles, and Zach Frazier. Of course, he's been added to the reserve non-football injury list. Some of the other, you mentioned Ian Wheeler, Xavier Carlton, Joel Wilson, among others. So yeah, of course the Bears are starting to make their cuts. So we'll see if there's going to be even more cuts. So there'll be more notable cuts. Even more notable cuts, I should say, coming up now. Some of the other cuts.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I just want to say this quick thing about the Bears. Do you believe they'll carry 9 offensive linemen like they currently have, or do you think someone like a Kareem Amagaji will be cut between now and tomorrow?
That's a tough one. I think you want to have as much stuff as possible. So I think you can kind of see where I think I could definitely see them perhaps maybe keeping, but I could also make a case you can base for them for releasing Magaji. So again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll probably find out about this time tomorrow if he gets cut or not.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that, as we talked about on the show throughout training camp, that Braxton Jones is going to get the start at left tackle 2 weeks from tonight against the Vikings. And if should anything happen, like I said, depth is important. So we'll see how Ben Johnson, Gene Ryan Poles plays this between now and tomorrow. With the depth within that offensive line.
Some of the more notable cuts. The Saints have released veteran running back Cam Akers. Some of them also. Shiloh Sanders was waived by the Bucs after he went. Well, actually, after he was ejected in the last preseason game. I mean,
as DeMiles Spruill always said from the Dean Davis show, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't give coaches a reason to cut you. That's
exactly.
Really don't. Whether it's being constantly for practice or hitting a guy. Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah, you can say the Bills player hit him first, but it doesn't matter. Like don't look. You and your brother are already under a microscope. Don't give people a reason to say bad things about you even more. Don't do it. Jeez.
Word to the wise from Second City Sports.
Your PSA for this week.
Yes.
The Cowboys, besides Michael Parsons' contract issues, they cut veteran O-lineman Lionel Collins. Injuries have kind of derailed his career, but yeah, I'm interested to see what do they bring him back? Does he perhaps get picked up by another team?
Yeah, maybe he does get picked up by another team. I don't think it's going to be the Bears because the Bears are pretty much, I think, had their offensive line rooms set with their depth. But I think if it's a team, a veteran playoff team that needs a little bit of help and they have some unforeseen injuries or they're not sure about some of their young guys, I can see Collins getting picked up by a team. The pressure's not going to be on him. I can see him being picked up as that veteran guy to help a young offensive line.
Stay with the Cowboys. Brian Schottenheimer is going to meet with Micah Parsons coming up to try to perhaps maybe bridge whatever is going on between him and Jerry Jones. Well, look, unless he's going to channel his late father, Marty, I don't know if it'll do any good.
Yeah, I guess that's what you sign up for becoming Dallas Cowboys head coach, right? You deal with drama from your owners to certain high profile players. And the way that Michael Parsons conducted himself last Friday, laying on the trainer's table like you're a damn supermodel posing for Sports Illustrated, that's not a good look. But I said to myself at the same time, he's doing this for cameras because they know everybody's focusing on him because he's been the talk for not so much good reasons throughout this whole preseason and training camp. I still believe LaKeena, he's going to be there next Thursday night when they open up the season against Philadelphia. And from what Kerry Rhodes said, former NFL player on Fox Sports Radio, he said a couple weeks ago, don't be surprised if Jerry Jones announces a re-signing of Parsons prior to next Thursday's season opener, because he loves drama. He's an attention seeker. What better way to upstage opening night is to announce the signing of Micah Parsons?
To be continued with this. So we'll keep it locked here. We'll keep you guys abreast of what's been going on now. What went on down in Atlanta? Well, just outside Atlanta for the FedEx Cup. After 143 starts in the PGA Tour, Tommy Fleetwood picked a heck of a time to get his first win on tour. Not only did he win the Tour Championship yesterday in very thrilling fashion, but he ends up winning the FedEx Cup, and he gets a cool $10 million. Yes, I'm so happy for him, because we've talked about his struggles and the previous tournaments the last couple of weeks. Losing Scotty Scheffler, he was right there in the thick of it within the Open Championship. He kind of went away there. It was a big player. He's been a big player in the European Tour, but this is actually his first. Like I said, had 143 starts on this side of the pond. But he's got a great attitude. He took it all in stride. He saw his stepson that they shared the moment. He saw Justin Rose, who finished the second. It was Scotty Scheffler. He had his chance, but he showed that he was human. So unfortunately, he ended up only getting 2.6 million. But I'm sure he'll be fine with that. But yeah, Tommy Fleetwood finally get his first win, and boy, have a heck of a time to do it.
Yeah, can we get some of that $10 million? We could use it right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. I was like, he's got kids that he has to help put through school. So yeah, I'm sure that's but a nice win for him, and a good win by one of the better guys on tour. And of course, they're going to be gearing up for the Ryder Cup coming up in a couple of weeks. I think they're in New York, I believe. So. Yeah, so this part of their schedule is over with, but they're getting ready to gear up for the Ryder Cup coming up in a couple of weeks down there in upstate New York and Farmingdale.
Yeah, congratulations to him indeed. Yeah, congratulations to him indeed.
All right, you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk sports potpourri here. Congrats to Chinese Taipei. They win their first Little League World Series titles in 30 years, almost 30 years, since 1996. Their 18th title overall. Of course, if you remember back in the day, back when Sid and I grew up, they were kind of the dominant team. I think they won 10. They won 10 championships between 1969, 91. Of course, they did have a couple of upsets. So they were upset by Trumbull, Connecticut at 1, Kirkland, Washington earlier than that in 83. But if you saw the relief in the players and the managers' faces after they beat Nevada, shutting them out yesterday, I should say, they just the relief on their faces. They were just like, okay, now we can celebrate. Because like I said, almost 30 years since they won one. That's insane.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it was that long, but. The reason why the Little League World Series is so popular these days has always been, especially now with the social media age that we're living in, is because these young people are playing for the love of the game. There's no NIL, there's no transfer portal, there's no $100 million contracts thrown in their faces, and just the pure joy, love of the game. Yes, there's pressure, but it's not to the extent of the adults. So you see. Young people being young people, and you see in adults that really care about them, letting them be themselves to an extent, and just letting them go out and have fun and play the game fun and sound and play the game the right way. And this is what happens.
It's going to be very interesting here because we've seen the growth of the sport, and also, of course, you got the softball. I think there was a team from just outside. I think Pittsburgh won on the softball side. So yeah, that sport's taking off too. On the girls' side. So yeah, I think this is sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, this is going to be kind of interesting to see how all this sort of forms and such, because of the pitcher for Chinese Taipei, I think he only gave up one run the whole tournament. He dominated the meat of that order for Las Vegas. They just didn't have an answer for him, and their defense was really what pulled it out. So I think the thing was, we see countries like your Chinese Taipei's, your and like in Canada and such. I think seeing that, I think just for you saw how much fun the kids had. So I think the fun part of it, winning is good, and you could tell how relieved the guys for Chinese Taipei, were when they finally won one. You could tell there was just more fun afterwards, and that's all you can ask for these Little League World Series tournaments.
Another thing that you like to see, and this is in sports in general, but as far as our young people is concerned, no matter who you play, like you said, there's high class emphasis on sportsmanship, and it breaks down many walls. And we're more similar than we are different at the same time as a society. So, and that's why I think many fans have really gravitated to the Little League World Series as well.
So so another Little League World Series tournament is in the books. So it should be interesting what happens next summer. As the Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. Now switching gears here, our sports potpourri segment here on Second City Sports. Switching gears over to Week 0 of college football. A thriller in Dublin between Iowa State and K-State in the Air Lingus College Football Classic. And just a great game and a very gutsy call by Matt Campbell in Iowa State on 4th down. Now they could have taken the field goal and given K-State some time, but they said, "Nah, you know what? We're not going to do that." So it was 4th and 3. They were like on the 8, and they got the the Rocco Beck passed it to I forgot who the running back was that he passed on the bomb. So I think Carson Hansen. I think that was his name. He got just enough to get the first down, and perhaps they were able to kill the clock. So a nice win for Dan Campbell and that program. And they actually have the leg up because K-State was picked to win the Big 12, but Iowa State's right there. Now, could they face each other in Arlington in December? Time will tell. But this is a big win for Iowa State to start off the college football season.
Yeah, no, Iowa State was there last year, along with Arizona State, Colorado, for that Big 12 title last year. And like I said, Kansas State was there too. They've been a perennial powerhouse there for years. But I wanted to ask you about that scenario. And I've seen it a lot, especially with the Bears this preseason. Maybe just because it's preseason, but we've seen this trend creep up over the last few years. It depends on where your possession is. If it's definitely deep in your opponent's territory, I think it's more likely to happen. But I think it's a dependence on the situation. I see more teams go forward, especially early on 4th down. And do you think that colleges are starting to pick this up too? Because, like I said, we've seen it in the NFL over the last few years. Do you think college football is starting to pick up on that trend?
Yeah, I think so. And I was a little bit surprised that Matt Campbell even went for that as deep as they were. I think I would have thought that they would just get the field goal, perhaps maybe force K-State, Avery Johnson, and the Wildcats to just go for it on the field goal. Now we'll talk about how that ended up not working for somebody in just a second here, but yeah, I think this is a very good call by Matt Campbell to kind of because if they had missed it, if Hansen had not God just reached forward and gotten the first down, and perhaps they were able to milk the clock, I think Slycone fans would not have been very happy. So in this case, it actually worked, but I don't know if you're going to see this very often in college this year. I don't think.
Yeah, because I know as the old saying goes, high risk, high reward. As I said before, we see it here and there in the NFL. We're starting to see a slight increase in that over the last few years. I was just wondering if college football will start following that trend.
We'll see. We'll see what will happen starting Thursday, but. Now, as far as, like I said, the flip side of that, Hawaii and Stanford. Now, if you guys remember, the Stanford fired their head coach late into the camp, if you will. Andrew Luck, who's been named the GM. This has been the trend here. That a lot of guys and gals are going to their alma mater to be the GM of their respective alma maters and teams. In this case here, Frank Wright, of course, a veteran head coach for Indy for the Colts. He, unfortunately made a boo-boo. Hawaii, nice win for former Hawaii quarterback Tommy Chang and his guys. They got the ball deep enough, and they were able to milk the clock. Unfortunately, Coach Wright did not call a timeout during that whole
good
thing. Yeah, and Kasai Masunawa, who actually learned how to kick a football watching YouTube videos, and of course he learned English also watching YouTube, and he was able to kick the game winner and got the Hawaii one of the best wins in a few years.
Yeah, it's called putting in that work, applying it, developing that work ethic, and it's starting to pay off. And congratulations to him.
All right, not a good start for Frank Wright in Stanford there. Going to be interesting in the ACC. We'll see how it goes there now. Kansas got a nice win against Fresno State. So that was another win there. But some of the games are coming up. I know our buddy Dave Revsine talked about it earlier. Probably one of the bigger games coming up on Thursday. Got Boise State in South Florida. That's going to be on ESPN. Rutgers, keep with the Big Ten. They host Ohio. That's going to be at 5 o'clock, an early game. There, NC State against East Carolina. They host East Carolina at 6 on the ACC network. Nebraska and Cincinnati. That should be a fun one at 8 o'clock on ESPN. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I meant to ask Dave Revsine. Yeah, I meant to ask Dave Revsine about this team when we had him on. I know his time was limited, but Dylan Raiola, the potential baby goat. I know he mimics Patrick Mahomes. I know he's Patrick Mahomes is everybody's QB idol these days if you're playing high school or college football. But I'm not going to say that Matt Rule's job is in jeopardy, but Nebraska started off well last year. Even though they had that tough loss to Illinois, they beat up on Colorado opening night around this time last year. They did get up to a hot start, but they struggled down the stretch. How important is this year for Matt Rule and crew? And can Dylan Raiola take another step and perhaps get Nebraska to a better bowl game? I'm not saying they're going to the college football play because I don't think it's in their cards, but I think they can. They need to prove at least win a couple more games than they did a year ago.
Well, yeah, remember they finally broke their drought, like 20-year drought of bowl games. They won their bowl game for the first time, I think, in like 20 years. So yeah, I think they are starting to kind of improve. I know Raiola had his hiccups last season. I know that Illinois game, I know they're kicking themselves because they probably felt they should have won that game. But on the other hand, though, I think Nebraska could be one of those teams where they might be in the middle of the pack in the Big 12. Big 10, I should say. We'll see. But I think Nebraska's going to be an interesting team to watch for. I think the Cincinnati game will be a nice little litmus test to see what kind of team you're going to get for the Cornhuskers this year.
Yeah, I agree, because if they win that game, I think it'll set the tone for them going up the high road for the rest of the year. If they lose here, it could be trouble for them. Like you said, I know they broke their drought last year by winning the bowl game, but they could have played in a better bowl game if they had a stronger finish.
Yeah, so yeah, like that's true. But yeah, I think this is a nice little building block for them as well. We'll see what happens. Now, your Minnesota Golden Gophers, they host the Buffalo Bulls, not Bills, but the Bulls at 7 o'clock on FS1. So and also Wisconsin finishing up here on BTN at 8 o'clock. Kind of a late start for all you folks at Camp Randall as they host Miami of Ohio.
Oh, they ain't late for them. They love to party there.
Oh yeah, they'll be jumping around all night long. So yeah, they'll be doing okay. Yeah. So they host Miami of Ohio. The fighting Big Ben Roethlisberger is coming up on Thursday at 8 o'clock on BTN, and that's your schedule for your earliest schedule for week 1 of college football.
Yeah, don't forget about Ron Harper too.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so it's gonna be it's gonna be a great week of we'll talk about the other big games. We'll talk Texas and Ohio State, but we'll talk about that on Friday's show.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. See LaKeena here with you, heading down the home stretch of this on this Monday and the Monday Extravaganza episode. Any sports media news before we close out with Old School TV Monday?
Well, I mean, the new Pac-12 will announce the CW extension as part of the new media rights deal. So again, you're going to be seeing Oregon. We'll see Wazoo again in the weird big new big Pac-12. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, going to be interesting to see what happens here. But also NBC, they retake Sunday morning MLB package from Roku, according to a report. So again, we'll get that till later this week. They'll officially announce that. But yeah, I think everything else, I think we're all good here. Now the U.S. Open, real quick before you do that, the U.S. Open started on Sunday, and unfortunately, your girl Madison Keys, on the women's side, she just lost to Zarava, qualifier from Mexico, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. The unforced error just killed her. I know she just had another unforced error that won the match for for Serbia. Yeah, in 3 sets. So not a good last couple of months for Miss Keys.
I have no other words. I'm crying right now. I'm crying.
Yeah, now we'll see how Coco Gauff does. She changed coaches again. That's never a good sign. But
yeah. Like I said, that spells trouble. Like I'm rooting for her, but that spells trouble.
But on the flip side, though, Southside Chicago with Taylor Towns, she won her first round match. Yeah, so she just won her first match. I got the U.S. Open going on right now, and she just won in straight sets. So she's had a nice first couple of early rounds in the tournament. On the flip side, for the men, I know Medvedev, a 2-time finalist, he lost. He had a total meltdown afterwards. I won't get into it very much. I know Djokovic won his first rounder. I know Tiafoe did as well. So we'll see. I mean, and Sheldon won his first round match yesterday too. So we'll see if one of those American players finally break through, on the men's side and perhaps maybe finally win a Grand Slam again. But Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz may have something to say about that. I know Sinner's been having injuries, but he looks like he's good to go. So could be interesting to see what happens at the U.S. Open in Flushing.
Hopefully this year my guy Tiafoe break it through and perhaps win it all. At least at the worst, get to the final.
Yeah, exactly. So you can watch all the matches on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus, and the ESPN new unlimited streaming service if you can afford it. So it's all right there.
One more note before we go to Old School TV Monday. Neil Everett and Stan Verrett, former Sports Center anchors, they're going to have their own show starting soon on TikTok. Hopefully they can bring it to YouTube too.
I'm sure they're going to put it on YouTube. So I'm sure that they've kept in touch. I know there's no more ESPN LA. I know Everett was let go first. I know Verrett left. I know they offered to have him come back to Bristol, but he told them no. So we'll see what else comes out of pipe from Mr. Everett. But I'm looking forward to that one. I'm sure they're gonna have it up on YouTube. I'm sure, because I know that their audience, who's around our age and a little bit younger, are not really into TikTok like that. So I'm sure they're gonna have it on YouTube. I'm sure that they got to.
Yeah. All right, let's close out Old School TV. Close out this program with Old School TV Monday. LaKeena, it's the late 80s, I believe it's around Sunday nights around 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. This show was very underrated, only lasted 2 years, but we saw some future stars on this program, including one Miss Tisha Campbell. After school days, before house party, before Martin in the 90s. This TV program was called Rags to Riches. It was an American musical comedy drama that was broadcasted on NBC for 2 years, from March 9th of 1987 until January 15th of 1988. Set in the pre-British invasion of the 1960s, the series tells the story of Nick Foley, a self-made millionaire who adopts 6 orphan girls. Each episode including musical scenes of hit songs from the era performed by the girls integrated into the plot, with the lyrics modified to provide commentary on the storyline. The plot goes as simple as this. Nick Foley, the millionaire owner of Foley Foods, is a streetwise New Jersey-born businessman who realizes that his playboy lifestyle has been a liability for his business reputation. In the TV movie pilot that launched the series, Foley attempts to develop a family man image by bringing a group of 6 orphan girls who were featured in a newspaper story that saying that they refuse to be separated from each other, to live in a mansion in Bel Air where he lives with his butler, John Clapper. Foley does this to seal the business deal and does not intend to keep the girls permanently, but Foley's plans change as he grows attachment to the girls and ends up adopting them as his legal daughters.
It was kind of like Different Strokes meets, I guess you can say, Grease with the music, numbers and such. So I thought that was a really cool, interesting concept. I know some people felt that maybe the show would have been better if they had set up in modern day. I get what they were trying to do, having it set in 1960s Southern California and such, but I think it would have been better, sure, if they had just dated in modern day. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I love this. The songs. The girls were talented. Of course, we got Miss Tisha Campbell, of course. We saw how talented and the great singer she she still is. She still performs. I know she still acts from time to time. Heidi Ziegler, of course, who would eventually become one of just the 10 of us. We'll talk about that show for Old School TV Monday at some point. Heather McAdam, I know she went on to have a good career as well in movies and television. So you had some stars, some people that became stars and who are still working. But yeah, I thought the concept was good. It was interesting, but would have lasted. I know they got their butts kicked by 60 Minutes. That's why the show didn't take off, unfortunately, on Sundays. That was probably back in the 70s and 80s. If your show was on Sundays at 6:00 against 60 Minutes, you're pretty much screwed for the most part.
Yeah.
So that was one reason that kind of killed them, I think.
Yes, and one final note, it got moved to Friday in the fall of 1987 to make way for family times. Ratings for the series were not strong enough for its Friday night time slot, and NBC canceled the show to part way through its second season in 1988.
Yes, that was like back then that was kind of like the Dead Man Walking slot. So I know I remember them when they made that change. They brought family ties in because they were kind of got them going. Of course, by Friday that was up against the TGIF lineup. So you're basically screwed there too. So they were pretty much. I think they were up against Full House. I think at that time.
Yeah, they started in '87. Yep.
Yep. So it was definitely they're basically kind of screwed there too. So that was basically there was really nowhere for the show to go. But it's a great cult hit. Most of the episodes are on YouTube, so you can check out the I think it was like 13, like 20 something episodes, like 13 episodes total.
Yeah, 20 episodes.
20 episodes total. Yeah, with the season. Cause I think they were both mid-season, so that's why I only had 20. But I think most, if not all of them, are right there on YouTube, so you can kind of check it out if you can. And I believe the movie's also on YouTube as well, the pilot.
Yeah. So for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the NBC 1980s American musical comedy drama Rags to Riches. LaKeena, take us home.
I am not going to sing the theme song, folks. I promise.
I'm not either.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WAR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WAR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anywhere, anytime on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. You can catch our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's. If you miss a segment or if you miss a guest, like we had with Dave Revsine from Big Ten Network on earlier, you can catch it. The replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Speaking of, we want to thank once again Big Ten Network's Dave Revsine for joining us today. Always great having him on with us. Like I said, we're going to try to get him on during the college hoop season, I should say. I know we gotta get sit. You gotta get sit to watch a little bit more college hoops, especially.
Oh, I watch college hoops. Is college football I get bored at? Okay, you always get that wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. So, you catch. It's always great having him on. Like I said, we'll try to get him on sometime before the year is out, right before the start of the college hoop season. So yeah, so again, I think the Sky have a game tonight, I believe. Let me check that real quick here. As the WNBA is finishing up their season. Yeah, they play tonight against the Aces, the Las Vegas Aces. Asia Wilson in the game. So you can catch that game on NBA TV tonight at 7:00 Chicago time.
I'm sure the spread is big for that game.
Take the over, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Maybe Adrian to keep them in it, I guess. The Sky, I guess, but I'm sure Sky fans. I know that they've been playing. I know the crowds are okay for the Sky games, but I'm sure the Sky fans are probably wanting the season to be over and done with already.
And I don't blame them one bit.
All right, so enjoy all the nice weather here. I know it's not gonna be too hot, so you can guys chill and have a little jacket weather going, a little early fall preview. So enjoy the baseball, enjoy the WNBA hoops, you're into that, and then the tennis and so much more. For Sid, I'm the kids with Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Holla!